Hello, and welcome everyone. Please stand as you are able for the singing of our national anthem, led today by Miss Lucy Wilson, a junior at Columbus North High School.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. And please continue to enjoy your lunch as we begin our program. As you find your seat, let's give another round of applause for Lucy's nice rendition of our national anthem. Once again, I'm happy to welcome everyone to this year's annual meeting of the Greater Columbus Economic Development Corporation. I'm Miranda Fox with the Global Integrated Services team at Cummins, and I've had the pleasure of serving as this year's EDC board chairperson. We like to start our annual meetings by recognizing elected officials in the room. Of course, this year, we have current office holders, a few soon to be, and at least 6 hopefuls, whom we will hear from later. In the interest of time, rather than calling each by name, if you are currently a local, state, or federal elected official, as able, would you please kindly stand to be recognized as a group? Let's also please include our recently elected mayor-elect and council member-elects who are with us today. Thank you all again for your dedicated public service. Mayor Linnep, would you please kindly join me on stage? As everyone in the room should know, Mayor Linnep is retiring at the end of the month, and we would like to offer a special moment of recognition. And as they come, Jason has a few remarks to share.
And by the way, we got him with a mouthful of food, so I thought that was, indeed, if you're wondering if it was a surprise. All right, in over a decade of public service, first as a councilman and then as mayor, Jim Linnep has been an ardent supporter of our organization and the work we do. He's traveled the world with us on multiple occasions to help tell the Columbus, Indiana story to prospective businesses throughout Asia and Europe. And despite jet lag and grueling schedules, I can personally attest he never complained. Not once. Remarkable. And whether meeting with the CEOs of a global headquarters or working the aisles of a hot, cramped trade show, he always represented our community and our state professionally and admirably. As to Japan, from 1982 forward, Columbus leaders traveled there annually to say thank you for the investment made by 24 Japanese companies who today employ over 5,000 people in our community. When that streak was put to the test several years ago, Then Councilman Jim Lenup volunteered to go, demonstrating his understanding of the importance of these efforts. And except for pandemic travel restrictions, annual trips continued, concluding with 2 trips to Japan this year, even as he approached the end of his term. And during the pandemic, Mayor Lenup demonstrated steady, capable leadership. He pulled together a coalition of healthcare, business, and nonprofit leaders to address the unprecedented challenges brought to all aspects of our community, including the business community. At no time did it seem that partisan politics ever came to play, which I suggest comes as no surprise to those of us who know him. As a leader, Mayor Lenup empowers his people and partner organizations to do their best and to work towards mission achievement. Moreover, the sensible, fair, and considerate Jim Lenup that you see in public life is the same person you will find in private settings. Mayor, to sum up our appreciation, for many officials, honor comes to the man because of the office he may hold. But I think all of us will agree that in Mayor Jim's case, honor came to the office because of the man he is. So Mayor, on behalf of Greater Columbus Economic Development Corporation, please accept our heartfelt and sincere thanks for a job well done. We also have a small token of our appreciation to give to you. And everyone, let's give a round of applause for Mayor Jim Lenup. Step forward. I'm going to get you out of the light of, there you go. All right. You got 10 seconds.
Thank you very much. We've already gone over the 1 minute that was allowed. It has been my joy to serve as your mayor for the last almost 8 years, at 23 and a half days to go. But seriously, it's been very worthwhile. I'm glad I did it, and I hope you have too. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Mayor Lenup. You know, some of the best advice that we learned from Mayor Lenup is that one should never ask any elected official to say just a few remarks. But I think he did pretty well. Of course, we plan to put that to the test again here in a little bit with our candidate forum, so let's continue. Since our founding in 1976, our organization has benefited from exceptionally strong private sector support, and each year, over 75% of our funding is made possible by the generous support of our corporate members, who demonstrate their commitment to our mission of building a world-class community by enhancing the quality of life, economic opportunity, and personal well-being of our residents. These organizations and their representatives are listed in your program today. And at this time, we'd like to ask all of our EDC Board of Director members to stand to be recognized as a group, including our gold, diamond, and platinum members, as well as our ex officio members. Would you all please stand and stay standing for a moment? I would also like to ask our Silver Advisory Team representatives to join them in standing as well. As you look around the room, the individuals standing represent an impressive mix of our community's business, civic, and local government interests. They give of their time, their talents, and a bit of their treasures to support the economic development efforts of Columbus, Edinburgh, and all of Bartholomew County. We are tremendously grateful for the engagement and support of these individuals. Please give a big round of applause for each of them and the companies and organizations they represent. Thank you. You may be seated. And to our bronze supporters in the room, we also offer you our thanks. Your kind financial support strengthens the good work that we do, and there's always room at the silver level next year. In a moment, Jason will return to offer a few report highlights for the year. As he comes, I'll close my remarks by sharing that it has been an honor to serve as the chairperson of the Greater Columbus EDC. I also want to offer my thanks to our past chair, Brad Davis of Centra, who set the stage for a seamless transition. And as the new year approaches, I look forward to paying it forward to our incoming chair, Mr. Tom Dowd of Dunlap and Company. Brittany Diebold of First Financial, Jeff Nolting of JC Bank, Mayor Linnup, and Jason rounded out the executive committee, and all have been a pleasure to serve alongside. Thank you, everyone, for your support, and please now welcome Jason back to the podium.
Thank you, Miranda, and once again, welcome everyone. We are always just so pleased to have you with us. Well, 1 year ago, this week, our office was impacted by an adjacent building fire, forcing a now year-long temporary relocation to office space generously made available to us by Cummins. Their kind support during our time of need has gone above and beyond. Thank you, Cummins, and thank you, Miranda, for your tremendous support. Thank you. I'm pleased to share that in partnership with our friends at the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce, that we now have an offer on a downtown building, and we are working with various partners to make it a reality. So please stay tuned for more. Well, even without a permanent office, we kept working, of course. And despite some headwinds this year, we welcome not one, but two significant expansions by George Oots Incorporated at their facility south of Edinburgh. And in Columbus, expansions by Nikkei MC Aluminum, Applied Laboratories, Analytical Engineering, and others will bring combined investments of almost $80 million in buildings and equipment, the retention of 607 local jobs, and just under 100 new jobs. We also welcome news of two other companies choosing Bartholomew County for their projects, although one of them has not quite made it official just yet. All right, first, the official one. In February, Century Biopharma Services announced plans to invest $16 million to acquire and complete the Force Holdings shell building to build ultra cold storage of pharmaceutical products to northern Bartholomew County operations. The company will pay an average of over $34 an hour for 10 initial positions. Then, in September, news broke that the beloved national brand, King's Hawaiian, was considering a prominent site on the southeast corner of Exit 76 with plans to build a new 368,000 square foot industrial bakery, calling for $180 million in investment and 147 new jobs, averaging just under $30 an hour. Irresistible Foods Group and King's Hawaiian have worked with the EDC on state support, with special thanks to our regional director, Trevor Lane. And locally, the project received necessary BZA approvals and county-approved tax phase-in abatements. Now, since September, there's been a lot of work happening behind the scenes to get the site fully ready for the project. In just the last 8 days, with our sincere thanks, the County Council and the Bartholomew County Commissioners respectively signed their part of an investment and job creation agreement pledging the county's support of $3.7 million in off-site infrastructure to benefit the project and Taylorsville area. At this point, we expect the company to sign the agreement in the next 7 days. I know, we were sort of hoping it might happen by today, but that's okay. At that point, that will make the announcement official. So, not counting the King's Hawaiian project, we've welcomed announced investments of $96 million this year. When we receive their official agreement, we will have secured announcements this year totaling $276 million, calling for 254 jobs at an average wage of $27.75 blended. All right, well, in addition to supporting active expansions and attraction projects, we conducted our annual Tri-County Wage Survey of Manufacturers. We sponsored a national pharmaceutical event, and we rolled out our all-new redesigned website that we hope you check out. In March, we organized a community delegation to Japan with generous support from Toyota Material Handling, the Heritage Fund, and the City of Columbus. And this fall, we relaunched our executive survey program with our thanks to all who participated. Also this fall, we promoted our region to food and beverage targets at the Anuga Trade Fair in Germany. And then, just 3 weeks ago, we returned to Japan, this time with friends from our South Central Indiana region, where Mayor Linnup was able to introduce Mayor-elect Fredan to most of our Japan-based headquarters. All that and a few other things too. Yeah, and I did mention the $276 million. Okay, all right, jokes aside, none of our efforts are possible without the support of our members and our community partners and all of you in the room. I especially want to thank the tireless work of our executive committee. They give so much of their time and talent to our efforts, as well as all of our committee volunteers. And within the office, special thanks, I'm looking at them back there, my fabulous teammates, Beth Bailey and Kristen Gerker. Could we give a round of applause for them? All right, well, thank you. That is my expedited annual report because we really want to get to the stars of the show. So with that, it's my pleasure to call up our 2023 Vice Chair and Managing Partner of Dunlap & Company, Mr. Tom Dowd, who has the honors of introducing our moderator. Tom.
All right, thank you, everyone. As I introduce our moderator today, I'd like to ask the participating gubernatorial candidates to please make their way to the side of the stage. To your left, over here to my right. As they make their way, we have 3 quick notes to share. First, we ask some of our corporate table sponsors to welcome an individual candidate to their table. Please kindly note the table assignments are not an endorsement by the particular company. A given candidate could have easily just been assigned to a different table. So we thank all of you for your understanding and your participation. Secondly, as a nonpartisan organization, Greater Columbus EDC invited all key candidates to attend today. All but one accepted the invitation as noted in your program. And lastly, Greater Columbus EDC does not endorse candidates, nor have we asked any of the candidates here today to endorse a particular position or stance. We, along with the rest of you in the room, look forward to hearing their comments on economic development matters. And now, for the introduction. Our forum moderator is none other than the host and creator of 5-time Emmy Award-winning Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick. Gary also serves as president of the Inside Indiana Business Division of IBJ Media. Mr. Dick is a frequent keynote speaker and moderator on issues related to the Indiana economy. He serves as a business analyst for CBS 4, Fox 59 in Indianapolis, along with 93.1 WIBC. Mr. Dick's his broadcast career included a 14-year reporter position and field anchor position at WRTV Channel 6 in Indianapolis. While there, his work received an Emmy nomination for a 1993 series on Indiana companies doing business along the U.S.-Mexico border. Prior to the creation of Grow Indiana Media Ventures, Mr. Dick served as Senior VP of the Indianapolis Economic Development Corporation, where he was responsible for a broad range of initiatives, including marketing, communications, and more. Among his many accolades, Mr. Dick has also on 3 occasions been presented with the state's top honor, the Sagamore of the Wabash, bestowed by Governors Kernan, Daniels, and Pence. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our moderator, Mr. Gary Dick.
Tom, thank you very much. Jason and Miranda as well. Thank you and good afternoon, everyone. Really looking forward to this conversation today. And as we begin, I would ask all of the candidates to file on stage in alphabetical order and take your seats. Always a treat for me to be in Columbus, and I know everybody says that when they're in a particular community, but I was talking to Mayor Linnup. The very first story I ever did as a reporter in Indianapolis way back in the early 80s, actually 40 years ago, hard to believe, was in Columbus. It was a story on Cummins. And I have been it's been fun to watch Columbus grow, this region grow as a community on multiple fronts. Always one of my favorite places to visit, so it's great to be here today. Our candidates are seated, I think, right, in alphabetical order, left to right, and in a moment I will call on one of the candidates to go first to introduce themselves and offer 1-minute opening remarks. We'll then proceed in order, and after each candidate has given their 1-minute opening, I'll begin asking the questions, allowing either 60 or 90 seconds per response, to which I will let you know which it is. At the end, candidates will be given a final 1-minute allotment for closing remarks. A countdown clock, a timer, is in the center of the stage. The candidates can all see it. And I ask that each of the candidates, and I know you will keep an eye on that countdown clock and stay with it. As it counts down and gets close to the end time, it will begin to flash. And if you happen to go over time, it'll notice that. And if necessary, I'll call on you to stop and note that I do reserve the right to deduct time from your closing remarks if you go too far over. So keep that in mind. Speaking of the questions, they were developed by the staff of Greater Columbus EDC. I provided some input as well. None of the questions was shared with any of the candidates in advance. If warranted, I also reserve the right to ask a follow-up clarification question, but I'll do that in a very limited fashion because we do want to keep on time today. To all of you in the audience, you have two very special roles to play. One is that we ask you to exercise good decorum, as I know you will throughout the course of this discussion. Any hecklers, and I know we won't have any, but if there are, they'll be escorted off the premises, and that includes you, Jason, so, watch yourself there. Number two, we ask you to warmly welcome each of the candidates with a round of applause after their opening and closing comments. But during the Q&A portion, please hold your applause, please hold any response so that everyone can hear what is being said, and again, so we can keep on time today. So with that, we will begin with opening remarks. Before coming up on stage, we rolled a dice. Actually, an electronic dice, so a current economy type dice, to see who would go first. And the honor goes to Mr. Hill to go first. You have 60 seconds for opening remarks.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Curtis Hill. I'm the former Attorney General of the state of Indiana. I'm glad to be here today. I believe that Hoosiers are hungry for proven conservative leadership, and that's why I'm running for governor. We're at a crossroads in our country. Government's failed us. The men and women that we send to Washington, D.C. have failed us, and it's time for us to rise up and fight back with good Indiana Hoosier leadership. I believe in truth, and we've seen the objective truth being slaughtered in our state and our nation. We've seen the loss of our institutions, the faith in our institutions. We've seen weaponization of race. We've seen the sexualization of our children. And it's imperative that we work together to bring back the foundations of our society. I believe in America. I believe in freedom. I believe in a culture of life, and I've fought to defend that culture of life. I believe in liberty, and I have fought to defend your liberty. I believe in truth, the central avenue of what we believe in, truth. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to participating in this meeting.
All right, thanks, Mr. Hill. Up next, Mr. Rainwater.
Good afternoon. My name's Donald Rainwater. I am a Libertarian candidate for governor of the state of Indiana. Some of you may remember me from 2020. I'm here running for governor because I believe we have two Indianas. We hear a lot about the Indiana that's doing well, that is growing, that is succeeding. But for many of our citizens in this state, they don't live in that Indiana. They don't get the benefit of the tax dollars that are taken out of their paychecks before they see them. They don't see the benefit from the property taxes that continue to go up and make it harder for them to continue to keep their home. They don't see the benefit of what you as an organization are doing.
And that's that time. Thank you, Mr. Raywater. Up next, Senator Mike Braun.
Thank you. I come from a place very similar to Columbus, just a little smaller, a great place to raise a family, build a business. I did that for 37 years prior to having a crazy idea of running for Senate. Whoever is on the stage here today is taking on a job I think even maybe more important than the one I have currently. It more directly impacts all of us. So you need to probably find out who is going to tackle the issues that we have as a state. I'm ashamed when I hear how high our healthcare costs are, how poor our outcomes are. Every town I visit, workforce, workforce, workforce. Half of our $22 billion annual budget is in education, still have reading levels now maybe where they were 10 years ago. So I can't wait to get the office, be entrepreneurial. I'm a problem solver. I'm going to focus on those. I'm going to embrace the entirety of our state, and I hope you will support me in the effort. Thank you.
Up next, Brad Chambers.
All right. Hi, Gary. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for having me. I'm Brad Chambers, and am I good here? Here we go. I'm Brad Chambers. I'm running for governor. You guys got me? We got it? Because I believe Indiana is great, but it can be even better. I'm new to this. I've never run for public office before, but I've lived the American dream in Indiana, and I want the same for all Hoosiers. And I believe growing the economy is the number one to do that.
Okay. How we doing?
I don't want to move.
Yeah.
All right, let's try it again.
That's
I believe
think,
that
go.
the number one job of a governor is to grow the economy, to lift people up, to create an American dream opportunity for everybody. As Secretary of Commerce for the last 2 years, I served in the capacity of Secretary of Commerce for the last 2 years. We broke lots of records. We brought in $33 billion with a new inbound economic investment. We brought in new high-wage industries, and we lifted up wages 30% higher than any time in state history. So growing the economy is essential to Hoosier prosperity and quality of life. You need a growing economy to fix the things that need to be fixed, to invest in education, to invest in healthcare, and to invest in law enforcement and public safety. So I believe that a growing economy it provides prosperity and opportunity for Hoosiers. And so that is the reason I'm running for governor, is to create the American dream for those in Indiana, just like I've had that opportunity as an entrepreneur in Indiana. Thank you.
All right. Nice. Nice job navigating the microphone, too. Lieutenant Governor Crouch.
Thank you. I'm Suzanne Crouch. I'm running for governor to boldly lead Indiana into the future. And we're going to start by eliminating Indiana's income tax. We're going to axe the tax. I travel the state listening to Hoosiers. They're being crushed by the high cost of living, by inflation and Bidenomics. We can put thousands of dollars back into their pockets every year. Now, special interest groups and big spending bureaucrats are screaming bloody murder and saying it can't be done. But that money is yours. It's not theirs. And we will make sure that you get it. It's not going to be easy. We have to phase it in, but if we limit government growth, if we end wasteful government spending, and if we find efficiencies in government, we can eliminate the state income tax. Hoosiers will benefit, and our economy will prosper. I appreciate your support. I'm running for governor. Thank you.
And up next, Eric Doden.
Good morning. I'm Eric Doden. If you look at your table, you'll see my wife, Macy. We've been married 25 years. We have 5 kids between 22 and 18, and we've had just a fantastic life. And I just want to tell you that I've been really studying you guys for the last 10 years when I was at the IDC, and you guys have been a beacon of hope for many of us across the state of Indiana with what you've done here in Columbus. And we see that same kind of energy in places like Franklin and Valparaiso. And when you look at our strategy of economic development, we want to see that same energy in all 92 counties. For us to be successful as a state, we have to grow our population, grow our talent and attraction and retention of talent. And we're the first candidate to have a plan for the 2.6 million people that live in small towns. That's what our Indiana Main Street Initiative is about. That's what Regional Cities Initiative is about. And I'm just really proud of you guys because you've been successful, but you continue to press forward and even try to be more successful. And we need to see that across the state of Indiana. So thank you.
Thank you, one and all, for those opening remarks. We now go on to our first question. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer. This question will begin with Mr. Rainwater. What do you see as the primary role of the governor in leading economic development for the state of Indiana? And as governor, what will you do to support local economic development in places like Columbus and Seymour and other places around the state of Indiana?
Well, that's a great question, and I think that the role of the governor should be to keep government out of your way, to reduce the regulatory burden on local economic development efforts so that you can do what you're here to do, which is grow your local economy. The state has too heavy a hand, the state tries to do too much, and the state takes too much credit. What we need is to get back to the idea that it's not the state's job to take federal money and then tempt you with it by telling you if you do it our way, we'll give you some of this. The reality is you're the boots on the ground, and governors should get government out of your way.
Up next, Mr. Braun.
So, you're the CEO of the state. You set the agenda. And to me, in life, it's a question of how you take the opportunity, what your risk profile is. Will you stick your neck out and get into areas that maybe others have avoided over time? And I think with us, we're lucky we got a legislature that I think embraces faith, family, community, enterprise. If we line that up with a leader that has got the experience proven over a period of time, not just aspiring to it, has the track record, it's as simple as that. I look at moving back to my hometown, not choosing the normal pathway. Took 17 years before I knew I had a scalable business, built it into a regional, then national company. Lucky enough, 4 of my 5 kids came into it. If you've done that and you're willing to take risk, you're going to figure out what is best for all of us, and I feel good about that.
Mr. Chambers.
Growing the economy is job number one. A prosperous economy lifts all people up. When people are prosperous, their health is better, their mental health is better, their kids are better, their housing is better, and their quality of life is better. So I believe that the number one job of a governor is to grow the economy and create prosperity for all folks. Indiana's average wage is below U.S. average, and that's frustrating. Indiana's GDP average GDP growth is below U.S. average, and that's unacceptable to me. We have this great product I call Indiana. We've got great people, a great location, we've got great stable government. But our growth should be higher. We need to play economic offense. If you're not growing as an economy, you're dying. If you're not winning, you're losing as an economy. And so there's huge opportunity to grow this economy and lift people up. There's $1 trillion of new inbound economic development coming. And Indiana should have more than its fair share, just like Columbus and with Kings Hawaiian and some of the wins they've had this year. So growing the economy, putting more money in Hoosier pockets, creating opportunity and prosperity for all Hoosiers makes quality of life better. And I believe that's job number one for a governor. And it also creates a smaller government. Thank you.
Ms. Crouch.
Thank you. As governor, I set the agenda for the state of Indiana. And I've been holding roundtables around Indiana, business roundtables, and they're telling me they don't have enough workers and they need more skilled workers. So when we eliminate the state income tax, we attract more people to Indiana. But we also have to look, and as governor, lead the fight to be able to create more credentials, more certifications, and more degrees here in the state. But as governor, I will tackle the issue of childcare so we can get more women in the workforce. I will tackle the issue of housing so we have places for people to live. And when it comes to helping us keep our workers in the workforce, I will take on the issue of addressing mental illness and addiction, because 60% of absenteeisms can be attributed to those that are struggling with mental illness and addiction. Now, when it comes to local economic development, we will put more resources and help those LEDOs so that we can have a more robust economic development opportunity for all parts of Indiana, and we don't leave rural Indiana behind. Thank you.
Mr. Doughton.
This is what I firmly believe. The United States is going to improve, and Indiana is going to improve from the grassroots, local leaders up, not the top down. That's what I believe with all my heart. And so when I've looked at successful communities, what happens is the local leaders have a strong vision, and the governor needs to be a good partner to that vision. That's what needs to happen. When we turned around Fort Wayne in 2015, I was asked to lead a team that turned around Fort Wayne to a nationally recognized economy. We were not ranked in 2015. But the vision came from the group of local leaders, not the political figures, not the governor, not the mayor. It was the local leaders that had the vision. We announced a $650 million vision that we'd implement in under 10 years. And today, 7 years later, we're the 33rd best place to live in the country. That does not happen by accident. It happens because local leaders like you have a bold vision for your community and relentlessly execute that. But you have to have a good partner in the governor's seat. And so that's what I believe that the most important thing the governor does is partner with you guys to make sure that your community is successful.
And Mr. Hill.
Well, government's role is to protect our freedoms. And the best thing that the governor can do from an economic development standpoint is to preserve your freedom to run, to make decisions. We do that by attacking the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy in the state of Indianapolis, or the state of Indiana, is huge. We often think it's that way in DC only, but it's huge. And so it's a matter of taking these state agencies and cutting them down to size. And then identifying ways in which we can improve our development. Looking at why we have the brain drain. We have kids graduating from Indiana schools that leave the state. Proposing incentives like I proposed, where we can eliminate the income tax for kids between the ages of 18 and 35 to retain that brain power and that knowledge and that workforce. We need to have productive ideas and ways in which we can save and produce for our families and across the state.
Very good. Let's go to question number 2. And again, each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. Among the many duties of the Indiana governor is the privilege of appointing all 15 members of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors, along with the leader of economic development in the state, the Secretary of Commerce. The question is, what traits will you look for in naming members of the IEDC board, and specifically if the opportunity presents itself to name a new Secretary of Commerce, what would those traits be? And we begin with Mr. Braun.
So when it comes to making those kinds of decisions, I think in addition to the traits of those individuals, on a board like that, you want to make sure it's balanced throughout our state. We're a big state. I visit all 92 counties every year. You elect me governor, I'll continue to do that. There have been some places where they've never seen a senator or a governor. And I've heard that in at least 10 to 15 counties. I come from a part of the state that generally gets overlooked a little bit. I went to the State House to weigh in on infrastructure, and finally, after all the years we were talking about it, Senator Messmer and I did a bill that teed up a regional development authority to where we're actually got it to where we're moving forward with it. So these individuals need to be people of action. It needs to be balanced, and the prosperity that we get from economic development needs to be spread across the state, and you got to put a team together that's going to actually make that happen.
Mr. Chambers.
Thank you. Well, I have a little experience with that over the last 2 years where I had a board I reported to as Secretary of Commerce. Geographic diversity is obviously very important, but so is industry diversity. I think it's important to have an entrepreneurial innovation voice on that board as well, to make sure that entrepreneurship and innovation gets the focus that it needs to. I think 85% of our economy is built up of small and medium-sized businesses. That's critical, and we need to do more around entrepreneurship and innovation. I did that as Secretary of Commerce. The team did that. So diversity of geography, diversity of industry, diversity of views, and having small, medium, and large businesses, really focusing on the future to grow the economy, grow the top line would be very important. And to have a dynamic Secretary of Commerce that knows how to manage a team and the 8 global offices that is our economy. We have a global economy here, so making sure that someone understands the global economy is very important.
Good. Ms. Crouch.
Thank you. Diversity is important. You know, we need to have those leaders who not only are from rural Indiana, but from urban Indiana, that not only for big industries, but are from small industries, that are agriculture, that are representative of all populations. But also, the next chapter in Indiana's history is about quality of life. And so it's important that the people that serve in my administration, particularly on the IEDC board, understand that when we look at economic development, we look at it through the lens of quality of life. It used to be that people followed businesses, but today businesses are following people, and people want to live where they enjoy that quality of life. So being able to look at economic development and the incentives we offer and how we tie them to quality of life is extremely important. Those are the people that I will be wanting.
So when I look for people to partner with, I look for 3 things. The first thing I look for is character. If you don't have character, we don't even need to go to step 2. But the second thing is chemistry. How well do you work together as a team? How well do you collaborate? And then the third thing is competency, and in that order. So the benefit of being on the road for 2.5 years and have met with thousands, I think we're over 3,000 leaders now across the state of Indiana, is we've been able to develop personal and close relationships across the state that have said, if you become governor, we would like to serve, either whether it's agency heads or at the IDC. And one of the things that I'm known for and that I'm super enjoy doing is bringing teams of people together. So I think what you're going to see, all of us are going to bring people with diversity of thought and location and backgrounds. But I think what we're looking for are people that also work together as a team, have a high level of character, chemistry, and then are competent and can make sure that we have a successful economy going forward.
Well, I certainly believe that we need to have diversity of place and quality of life. I think it's important to recognize that we are Hoosiers. It's not so important to bring in business and industry into this state if that industry isn't compatible with who we are as a people. We want to make sure that we don't overrun our communities with other thinking. We're not New York. We're not Chicago. We're Indiana. We're Hoosiers. We want businesses that come here because they want to be a part of us, not because we want to be a part of them. And we need to emphasize that in our decision making at the commerce level.
You know, from the pandemic to today, our economy in Indiana is changing, and our focus needs to change with it. The status quo isn't going to work over the next decade. We need to recognize that the gig economy is a real thing. We need to recognize that Hoosier small businesses that were severely hampered and damaged during the government's response to the pandemic need attention. We lost a lot of small businesses, a lot of family farms. And I believe that we need to appoint people to the IEDC who can refocus and who will have the integrity and the ethics to focus on all Hoosier business, not just theirs.
Very good. Let's move on now to question number 3. We have a little more time on this one, 90 seconds for your response. The LEAP Innovation District in Lebanon, Boone County, is a 9,000-acre development site located along I-65 between Lafayette and Indianapolis. The state of Indiana now controls, and IEDC is actively marketing that site. You may have seen Eli Lilly and Company putting a manufacturing campus there. It's the largest investment ever. Published reports indicate that so far IEDC has committed upwards of $160 million to develop the first 1,600 acres. And recently, there's been a lot of media attention on the IEDC's proposed plan to potentially build a pipeline to take millions of gallons of water per day from the Wabash River in the Lafayette area to that Boone County site. The question, what are your thoughts about LEAP Lebanon? And should voters here in South Central Indiana be happy that the IEDC and state of Indiana are dedicating significant resources to that? And I would add if the idea of that model going to other parts of the state is something you would support. We begin with Mr. Chambers, and again, you have 90 seconds.
Thanks, Gary. Again, I have a little knowledge of the LEAP District. As I look at Indiana and its significant strengths, its university, its location, its workforce, its opportunity, and I look at the fact that we're underperforming on GDP and we're underperforming on average wage, and you look at the opportunity set and how we compete against North Carolina and Arizona and Texas, how we grow the economy into the future, how we take advantage of that growth. I look nationally, and why can't Indiana lean in and make bold, innovative, future-focused investments in our future to anchor Eli Lilly's $4 billion investment in Indiana? Why can't it? And it did, and that is a bet on the future of Indiana with $4 billion of high-wage jobs and more to come. That is a bold, future-focused investment in our state's future. As it relates to the water, we have an abundance of resources in this state, and water is one of those. There was never any approach with that would create winners and losers. It's all winners, or it wouldn't be done. But this is the opportunity to lean into the future and lean into growing our economy above what it's been in the past, taking a full advantage of what this state provides for us and our workforce and our people, and lifting and creating jobs that'll keep our kids and our grandkids here well into the future. So be bold, be innovative, be confident in this product of Indiana, and make investments appropriate to that. Thank you.
Thank you. The problems, the issues with the LEAP project come about for 2 reasons. One, a lack of transparency with that project, and then the inability to have acted very early on with the elected officials that are affected by that. I have talked to and visited with the commissioners in counties that have been affected, and initially and very early on, there was not a total interaction and explanation of what was going on. You know, throughout my years in public service as a county auditor, a county commissioner, a state representative, auditor of state, now lieutenant governor, transparency and accountability have been the hallmarks of my public service. In fact, as auditor of state, our state transparency portal was rated as one of the best in the nation. So we have to be transparent, because if we aren't transparent in government, we can't be accountable. And so the second issue that we have is that we do not have an overall state water plan for our state. And so areas like Columbus and Evansville in Southeast Indiana should be concerned because we need to have that water plan. We will have that when I am governor. But I will tell you, when it comes to local economic development, we need to empower our leaders. We need to have more capacity so that they can be true partners, and we quit having, like we have for the last 25 years, a top-down, state-driven economic development policy.
Yeah, let me be very clear. I do not think the IDC should be a developer. I do not think it should be buying property and competing with the private sector, and I do not believe in a top-down approach to economic development by chasing large projects alone. What I believe is a 92-county strategy, where we have the opportunity for every community in Indiana to be a community of opportunity and growth. And that's what our Indiana Main Street, it's actually the opposite of that strategy of having a large project strategy. What we know is that nearly 100% of our growth comes from small and medium-sized businesses. That's where the magic happens, and it happens by attracting and retaining talent and then letting them decide what businesses to grow, and then you partner with them to be efficient and effective partners with them. So I'll give you an example in our backyard. If Chuck Surak does not move from Ohio back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, there is no Sweetwater Sound with thousands of people employed at very high-wage jobs. And we could say that story over and over and over again across the state of Indiana. So our strategy is not to do just large projects where the IDC is serving as a developer, but to partner with the private sector, grow communities across the state of Indiana and all 92 counties, make sure we have the population growth, and then watch the magic that our talent does when they start and grow businesses.
90 seconds, Mr. Hill.
Well, the LEAP project is exactly what the state should not be doing. It's forcing itself onto a local community. I mean, think about it. If you don't have water for your project and you have to pipe water in from 53 miles away, wouldn't it make more sense to move your project to where the water is? I've had conversations all over that region from elected officials and people that live in Boone County all the way up to Tippecanoe, White County, Newton and Jasper, and they're concerned about this project. They're concerned about the way that it was developed, the lack of information that they receive, the lack of transparency. That's not what government should be about. That's not how economic development should roll. What I talked about earlier, we need to make sure that we don't be a front to the community that we're offering. We go into Boone County because Boone County has a partnership with the state, not because we see an opportunity to be the big dog and make something happen that we think is important. So it's imperative that we take projects like this and put them on the shelf until the community buy-in is there and that we're working together productively.
I believe that government's job is to safeguard our individual rights, not safeguard mine at your expense. I believe the LEAP project is a great example of state government or a quasi-government agency using a heavy hand to do something beneficial at somebody else's expense. If you listen to some of the government officials up in the Tippecanoe County area, they're not real pleased. So the idea that this would be a win-win for everybody, I don't think everybody in that area agrees with that. And I would like you to stop and think. Look around at the tables around you of the other folks in this room. Do you believe that they should get a benefit from government at your expense? I don't. And I think that that's why projects like the LEAP project are a bad overreach of government.
I come from the world of being a Main Street entrepreneur, building a business from the trenches. And I'm imagining that most of the people here in the audience would come from that same place. When you look at this project, to me, it epitomizes the exact opposite of that. We should look at the talent we have right here in our own state, the fertile field of entrepreneurs. And by the way, they hardly ever get a dime. I'll talk about a county of a business that was a pretty good sized business in Pike County. has been talking to the IEDC for 3 or 4 years, gets nothing but lip service. They've got ready to build on property. They're willing to do whatever it takes, at least to get the ear from the IEDC, and cannot get it. And when I travel and visit all of these counties, they are telling me that. Any top-down approach where you're not taking in a broad spectrum of opinion, that's the insider game. It's not to say that we shouldn't occasionally be spending a decent amount of money to get in that larger company that gives us that highest stratum of income. But when you see all of that being the normal operating procedure and the benefits only in the center of our state and in that bubble, something has to be done differently.
All right, we are ready now for our final question. Before closing comments, the READY program, Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative, commonly referred to as READY, brought $30 million of a $500 million pool of money to the South Central Indiana Talent Region, serving the communities of Bartholomew, Jackson, and Jennings County. Earlier this year, the legislature approved another $500 million in state funds, this time for READY 2.0, that regions can compete for in the months ahead. The question, and we begin with Lieutenant Governor Crouch, the question, what are your thoughts about the READY program, its impact on local and regional economies, and would you support a continuation of the READY program?
Absolutely. You know, READY, the $1 billion that the state is going to be investing, has already invested and be investing, will attract almost $20 billion of private and local investment. It's how we make things happen, by collaborating and working together. And so, yes, of course, absolutely, it's the future of Indiana. But I touched upon earlier that the next chapter in our history is quality of life. And so we have to look at more collaboration, more regional approaches to addressing those quality of life issues that are before us. It can mean different things to different people, right? It can be the destinations you visit, it can be the amenities you enjoy, but it's also about our physical health, it's about our mental health, it's about how we care for each other. And so yes, absolutely, we will have more collaboration and more regional projects, not only there, but in addressing mental illness and addiction. Thank you.
Mr. Doty, 60 seconds.
Well, for those of you who know me, I'm going to be inherently biased in this response. READY is an extension of Regional Cities Initiative, which we started in 2014 when I was at the IDC. And the whole concept around that was to empower local leaders regionally to have a regional plan. And we put $126 million at risk, not knowing exactly what would happen. And in 1 year, the private sector led the effort and did $1.25 billion worth of deals. And so I think that READY is an extension of that. And I think that now that we're using state money and it can be flexible, the reason I go back to the regional cities model is because I believe that when we put the READY money in, the local leaders in the region need to decide, what the right projects are, not the IDC, not state government. We need to be a good partner to the vision that you have at the local level in all 92 counties. And the final thought I'll have is Muncie, Marion, Anderson, Terre Haute, and Richmond want to go on the same ride that you've been on in Columbus, and that's what READY will allow them to do.
I would certainly support, and primarily the interest is making sure that the locals have the responsibility of moving forward and making the decisions on what's important in their regions. Regional partnerships are absolutely vital. I recall when the Regional Cities Initiatives took place years ago and participated in those. One region is different than another region, and the localities are different, and that's why they need to work together so that we can build one solid Indiana that's a quilt of all local communities. So I think it's imperative that we continue this program and that we make sure that the leadership from the programs are coming from the locals as opposed to the state.
That's your money, right? The state government, the federal government, they took that out of your paycheck. They took that out of your pocket. And now what they do is they create a program where they say, now, we've got this money, and we're going to give it to you, some of it, You can compete for it if you'll do what we want you to do with the money. I think that is inherently unethically wrong. I think we've got to get this idea that big government with big ideas and big control is going to fix things. Look around, the economy has gotten worse over the last 8 years, not better. And if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to keep getting what we're getting.
So a program like this, when I was in the legislature, we did something similar with local government. It's called community crossings. You can't imagine how many complaints we got when we put out an offer that match what we're going to give you. You match it and you can do what makes sense in your own communities. Well, I didn't think that made sense when commissioners and mayors were complaining about it. Now that program is welcomed and you can see the results across our state. Your only complaint would be that maybe there's too much construction on our roadways and bridges. That kind of idea with skin in the game, I love it, because if you got skin in the game, you're sharing costs, things get done more efficiently. And in this case, government is going to have to do something. We've got cash flow. Be careful with it. If you've got too much cash flow, it begs the question, should you be in the business of this? Then it takes a discernment to know when you need to make the investment and when you don't. Skin in the game always works. I like that concept.
As a Midwestern state, population growth is critically important. Quality of life is an attractor for population growth. Population growth turns into workforce growth, and workforce growth turns into GDP growth. The READY program touches almost every county in the state, and it's an investment in quality of life. It puts the dollars and the impetus on the local communities. It's a partnership with state government. When I go around the state talking to community leaders, they have pride in their community. They want to do it themselves. They just need a good partner, and that's what the READY program has been, is a good partner. It's taken state dollars and it's leveraged it with local community dollars and private dollars to have, it'll be a $15 billion economic impact over time. It's an investment in population growth, investment in workforce, and investment in GDP growth. For a Midwestern community, Midwestern state, it's important to continue those investments into the future. Thank you.
All right, well, with that, we have arrived at closing remarks. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for those closing remarks, and we begin with Mr. Doden.
My grandpa was a pastor to rural communities in Indiana for 40 years, and he was a big part of my life. He died when I was 11 of cancer, but I still remember vividly what he taught me. A couple things he taught me: that faith without works is dead. That was a big mantra of my grandpa. And the second thing is that without vision, people perish. So here's what I'm asking of you today. Number one, this is going to be a lot of work for all of us as a team to work together to restore communities, create vibrancy across the state, and make sure that we have the best future possible. So I'm going to ask you to roll up your sleeves and put your faith to work. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to have a bold vision for your community and for the people of your community, which you guys do here, so I know that this is part of your DNA, but we also need to see that bold vision, across the state. And then third, I'm asking you guys to pray for us. Pray for wisdom, pray for safety. We're all traveling, and it's quite the gauntlet that you have to go through. And then pray for a servant's heart, that we will serve with excellence. Really appreciate being on this journey with you, and thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to be here today. You know, when you're looking at a race, a political race, you hear people talk about all of the things that they're going to do. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And how do you know? How many times have you elected someone who said they were going to do one thing and they ended up doing another? And you get the same old, same old. Well, I would implore you to examine these candidates, myself included, on what we say we will do, and ask yourself, how do we know? How do you know? You know based on what we've done before. Look at our record. Look at my record. Who's going to be the fighter that you need to survive in Indiana? It's that simple. When I look for someone who I'm electing, I look to see, is that a person I want to have in the foxhole with me to fight and dig my way out? Indiana is a great state. It can be even greater, and we need strong leadership moving forward. Vote for leadership that you can count on, that's proven, that's conservative, that's trustworthy. Look at our record. I have fought for your liberty. I'll continue to do so. Thank you very much.
I've never held public office. I've never been an appointed bureaucrat running a Department of Commerce for the state of Indiana, but I have sat down at my laptop with my Excel spreadsheet and figured out what I was going to not do with my money in order to pay what I needed to pay. I've sat down and I've worried about whether or not I had the money to get my daughter new clothes. I've gone to Walmart and seen the cost of my groceries double. Hoosiers are hurting. The economy is in crisis. Education is in crisis. We don't need bigger government in Indiana. We don't need more government. We need better government. And I'm running for governor to bring better government to all Hoosiers. Thank you.
Number one, we're all lucky we live in a state like Indiana. In building my business over the years, there are places that are worse than the federal government in terms of the way they roll. Curtis had a point. Track record. I think the best way to size up what someone's going to do is see what they've done in the past. Of all the candidates here, the only one that's got a voting record that's out there that you can look at if you're going to practice what you preach is me. And when I became a state legislator, 15, 16, and 17, there's a track record there too. When I look at what we've been able to do in a dysfunctional place like the U.S. Senate and get more stuff done than almost any other Republican senator, that's what you want to look at. And if you embrace faith, family, community, opportunity, and freedom, and got a record that shows you not only believe in it, but you can do something about it, that's what I'd look at. Thanks for listening today. Appreciate it.
I believe the contrast is fairly clear. I've never run for office before. I think that's pretty clear. I'm a business guy. And I view the lens of running the state from a business lens. I look at the opportunity that's Indiana, and I see that it's being underserved. I believe that we can take this great product and do more with it. And when we do more with it, it lifts people up. When people are prosperous, government can be smaller, quite frankly. When people are secure and prosperous, government can be smaller. Welfare is down, education is up, crime is down when people are prosperous. So my view is you grow the economy. You use the proceeds of that growing economy to fix education, to fix crime, law enforcement, and invest in government. And government can be smaller because of a growing economy. We have a GDP growth that is below U.S. average. We have average wages that is below U.S. average. That's unacceptable for a product like Indiana. It takes a business guy to do that, a long-term strategic thinker, not someone who thinks in three-year cycles. Three-year cycles will not solve our problems, will not compete against all of our competitors like North Carolina and Arizona and Texas and, quite frankly, China. Thank you.
I'm running for governor to protect our conservative values. As governor, I'll make sure parents have choices in their children's education. We'll enforce our crime laws to the fullest, and we'll stand shoulder to shoulder with law enforcement. And we'll send a message to the criminals and fentanyl dealers that if you come to Indiana, you will pay the price. We're going to axe the tax. We'll live within our means, and we're not going to burden our children and grandchildren with a mountain of debt. As governor, I will support our companies, our workers, so we can compete with other states and other countries, including China, and win. The Indiana you and I will build will never cast aside our most vulnerable Hoosiers, the unborn, the elderly, the disabled, those struggling with mental illness and addiction, because they are our families, our friends, and our neighbors. The Indiana you and I will build together will never, never compromise in protecting faith, family, and freedom. I'm Suzanne Crouch. I'm running for governor. I ask for your support. Let's make history together. Thank you.
Well, with that, I'd like to thank the candidates, and I've got to say, you all might have a future in TV because you hit your times almost right on every time. So very impressive. Thank you to the audience, and again, thanks to the candidates, not just for being here today, but for what you're doing in terms of the energy, the ideas, what you're doing. It's a big lift to do what you're doing. It's very important for our state, so thank you for that. Thank you to the audience for being attentive, being respectful of the process today. I've been asked for the candidates to remain on stage for just a moment longer while Miranda returns to the podium. And as she does, how about giving all of our candidates a big round of applause? Thank you.
Gary, thank you so much for doing an excellent job as our forum moderator. And to you and each of the candidates, we have a small gift of appreciation to present to each of you, which you can open later, of course. To our media members present today, several of the candidates will be around for a few minutes on the floor to take your questions. And to everyone, thank you for attending today's Greater Columbus EDC annual meeting. Until we meet again, we stand adjourned. Yep. We need to turn